The marble floor gleamed under fluorescent lights, polished so hard it reflected every step. Alicia Grant's heels clicked against it as she walked into the downtown branch of Sterling Federal Bank, folders tucked neatly under her arm. She was early, as always. Early meant control. The lobby smelled of disinfectant and stale coffee. A line of customers parted around her, their murmurs fading as she approached the front desk. The receptionist, a young white man in a fitted blazer, looked up, froze, then plastered on a rehearsed smile. "I'm here for the board meeting," Alicia said, voice calm, steady. She handed him her ID. His smile didn't waver, but the silence stretched. He glanced at the ID, then at her. "Sorry, ma'am. This area's restricted." Her chest tightened. "Restricted?" "Yes, employees only." "I am an employee," she said. "Actually, I'm the invited consultant. The directors requested me personally." The receptionist tapped the desk, eyes sliding toward the security guard. A nod passed between them. Then came the line, sharp as glass. "I think you should leave before this gets uncomfortable." The words cut deeper than a scream. The security guard stepped forward, hand already hovering near his radio. Around her, conversation stilled. A mother pulled her child closer. Alicia's pulse pounded. Heat flushed her skin, but she didn't move. Couldn't. The boardroom doors at the far end of the lobby swung open. A suited man emerged, eyes locking on her. His lips curled into something between recognition and disdain, and then he said her name. The marble gleam seemed colder now, like ice beneath Alicia's shoes. She had stopped in the center of the lobby, the weight of stairs pressing against her back. The receptionist still hadn't returned her ID. His hand gripped it like a weapon, fingers curled too tight. "Ma'am, I've explained," he said, voice loud enough for the onlookers. "This floor is not open to the public." Alicia's throat burned. She steadied her tone. "I am not the public. My name is Alicia Grant. I'm contracted by your board. Check your calendar." A murmur rippled through the line of customers. A woman whispered, "She's not lying." The security guard stepped closer. "Let's not make a scene." His voice was soft, but the way he rested his hand near his radio made it a threat. "I'm not making a scene," Alicia said. Her hand trembled, so she pressed it hard against her folder. "I'm asking for professional respect." The boardroom doors opened again. Jonathan Price appeared, silver hair immaculate, smile carved like marble. He glanced at Alicia, then at the receptionist. "What's this?" he asked, voice dripping authority. "She tried to get inside," the receptionist said quickly. Jonathan's eyes fixed on Alicia. Cold, dismissive. "Tried?" He chuckled low, as if the word itself confirmed something. Then louder. "Miss Grant, perhaps you misunderstood the invitation. We prefer consultants who fit." The word hung, heavy and poisonous. Her lungs fought for air. Around her, silence reigned. No one stepped in. Not one. The guard's hand shifted to her elbow. Firm, urgent. "This way, ma'am." And then the cameras flashed. Someone had started filming. The video spread before she even made it back to her office. Grainy phone footage, shaky angles, but her face was clear. Stiff jaw, steady voice, surrounded by white walls and white silence. The caption beneath it read, "Consultant denied entry to Sterling Federal Boardroom." Her assistant, Maya, had already seen it. She looked up from her laptop, eyes wide. "Alicia, it's everywhere." Alicia shut the door behind her, careful, controlled. "Let them talk." "Talk?" Maya spun the screen toward her. "They're dissecting every word you said. Half of them call you brave. The other half," she stopped. "The other half are calling you hostile." Alicia's laugh was sharp, humorless. "Hostile? For insisting on walking through a door I was invited through?" Maya hesitated. "You need to get ahead of this. A statement, maybe. Something calm, something... No." Alicia set her folder down with deliberate precision. "If I explain, I'm already guilty. If I justify, I'm already begging." The silence after was heavy. Only the hum of the air conditioning filled it. Flashback came unbidden. Late nights under fluorescent library lights at Harvard. Law students asleep on their books while she crammed finance case studies until dawn. Men in tailored suits had told her, "You're impressive, but not exactly our type." Recruiters had smiled too long, then offered diversity positions at half the pay. She had pushed anyway, built her consultancy one contract at a time, leveraged every sleepless night into another foothold, and still, Doors shut in her face. The phone buzzed. Denise's name lit up the screen. Alicia answered, pressing speaker. You saw? Denise's voice was taut. I lived it, Alicia replied. They humiliated you in public. That's grounds for legal action. Legal action means years in court, Denise. Headlines will fade by then. My name will be the only thing that sticks, Maya interjected. But people are talking. You could, Denise cut her off. Listen, they wanted you small, Alicia. They wanted you erased. You go quiet, they win. File the suit. At least force discovery. Shine a light. Alicia closed her eyes. The image of Jonathan Price's smirk seared itself into her. The way he'd said fit, as though she were a misshapen object in his curated world. From somewhere behind her memory, her father's voice. Keep your head down. Take the money. Don't give them reason to hate you more. But her chest burned. Her silence would taste like ash. Send me the paperwork, Alicia said finally. Across town in a boardroom lined with dark oak panels, Jonathan Price leaned back in his chair. A director asked, should we be concerned about the video? Jonathan waved a dismissive hand. A consultant with a chip on her shoulder. She'll vanish by next quarter. But if she sues, she won't. His tone was calm, cold. Women like her always miscalculate. Too emotional, too loud. The system will chew her up, same as it always does. Laughter murmured around the table. A toast was raised. Behind the glass, smoke curled from Jonathan's cigar, drifting upward until it vanished. The cafe on 12th Street smelled of burnt espresso and old brick. Alicia sat in the back corner, shoulders squared, waiting. Her laptop was open but untouched, her coffee untouched. She wasn't here for caffeine. Denise slid into the seat across from her, blazer sharp, eyes sharper. I filed the preliminary complaint. They'll have to respond. Alicia raised an eyebrow. And when they bury it under red tape? They can't bury video, Denise said flatly. Before Alicia could answer, Marcus arrived, scarf loose around his neck, the kind of presence that made people look up. He set his phone down, already lit with Twitter feeds. You're trending again, Alicia groaned. Wonderful. No, listen, Marcus leaned forward. People are split, but the younger crowd? They're with you. They're saying Sterling's a dinosaur and Price is the face of it. Denise exhaled, unimpressed. Tweets don't win cases. Cases don't change culture, Marcus shot back. Money does. Power does. If she wants justice, she has to hit them where it hurts. Alicia stayed quiet, watching the two of them spar. Denise tapped her folder. Here's the play. We argue breach of contract, discrimination, reputational damage. They'll try to settle quietly, Marcus snorted. Settle? You think Price fears a lawsuit? He has 100 lawyers on retainer. And what do you suggest? Denise snapped. Marcus's eyes locked on Alicia. Buy them. Buy Sterling out from under him. Silence. The clatter of plates at the counter. A burst of laughter from students near the door. Background noise suddenly distant. Alicia blinked. By the bank? Exactly. They're weak. I've been watching the numbers. Branch closures. Stock sliding. Price is desperate to hold his image together. Denise shook her head. That's fantasy. She's one woman, not a hedge fund. Not alone, Marcus said. With backing. With strategy. It's possible. Alicia leaned back, heart racing. The idea was absurd, reckless. And yet, the word fit echoed again, Price's smirk tightening her chest. Buying the bank wasn't just retaliation. It was reclamation. She whispered almost to herself. They would never see it coming. Narration cut sharp and spare. Racism hides in contracts. In waiting rooms. In the word policy. It breathes through silence, through the shrug of a bystander, through the ease of someone who never had to explain themselves. The lines are invisible until you trip over them. And when you do, the fall is public. Denise leaned in. I'm not saying it isn't bold, but lawsuits give structure. Precedent, headlines. Marcus smirked. And headlines fade. Ownership doesn't. Both of them turned to Alicia. Her pulse thrummed. The cafe suddenly felt too small, the walls too close. She imagined the Sterling lobby again. Cold marble, every stair pressing her down. Now she pictured it differently. Her name on the plaque. Her authority unquestioned. It was impossible. And it was inevitable. Alicia said, Find me numbers. Find me who's willing to listen. Marcus grinned, victory flashing in his eyes. Denise sighed, rubbing her temples, but didn't argue. For the first time in days, Alicia felt air fill her lungs. Not peace, no, never peace, but momentum. Across the city, Jonathan Price studied the evening news with irritation. The footage looped again, her voice clear. "I am asking for professional respect." His assistant hovered. "Sir, do you want me to draft a statement?" Jonathan's lips curved. "No, let her chase her lawsuit. Let her talk herself hoarse. The system will teach her boundaries." He crushed his cigar into the ashtray as if extinguishing a spark before it could spread. The television blared before Alicia even unlocked her front door. She froze on the porch, hearing her own name through the walls. Inside, Maya sat stiff on the couch, remote clutched like a lifeline. The news anchor's tone was practiced neutrality, but the footage spoke louder. The Sterling lobby, Alicia's calm defiance, Jonathan Price's smirk. Beneath it ran the chyron, consultant causes scene at Sterling Federal. Alicia's stomach twisted. She shut the door with too much force. "They're framing it," Maya said. Her voice trembled with anger. "Aggressive, disruptive, like you stormed in there." Alicia didn't sit. She stood behind the couch, arms crossed tight as if holding herself together. "They'll twist it until it breaks." Maya turned, pleading. "Say something, Alicia. Give them your side." The silence makes it worse, but Alicia only shook her head. Words were traps. The wrong syllable, the wrong expression, already weaponized. Later that evening, she sat at a polished oak table across from her father. He had insisted on dinner. The restaurant was hushed linen and silver, the kind of place that whispered wealth. He didn't waste time. Why couldn't you just let it go? Her jaw clenched. Let what go? Being escorted out like a criminal. You think the world's fair? His voice was low but sharp. I raised you to be smart enough not to fight battles you can't win. This isn't about battles, Dad. Her tone cut, measured. It's about dignity. He set down his fork, meeting her eyes. The years of weariness in his face struck her harder than his words. Dignity doesn't pay bills. It doesn't change men like Jonathan Price. It gets you ruined. She inhaled, steady but trembling inside. Or it gets me remembered. The silence between them was thicker than the velvet drapes. Her phone buzzed on the table. Marcus, she excused herself and stepped into the alley. Behind the restaurant, his voice spilled fast, urgent. They're running op-eds now. Words like volatile, chip on her shoulder. They're painting you exactly how they want the public to see you. I know. You can't let this be the only story. You need to act, Alicia. Tonight. The alley smelled of grease and rain. A neon sign flickered. She leaned against the wall, whispering, I'm not giving them my silence. I'm giving them my next move. Narration cold and unblinking. Racism doesn't scream. It whispers in headlines. It edits footage. It hides behind passive verbs. A scene was caused. Tensions rose, erasing the hands that pulled the strings. It stains reputations, not carpets. The stain lingers even when scrubbed raw. Across town, Sterling's boardroom buzzed with quiet satisfaction. Jonathan raised his glass. Notice how fast the press works when you feed it the right narrative? His smile was all teeth. She's no longer a consultant. She's a controversy. No client wants controversy. One director asked, and if she fights back? She won't last the month, Jonathan replied. Not when we're done. Back in her apartment, Alicia sat at her desk, screen glowing with article after article dissecting her name. Words leapt out, angry, unprofessional, liability. Maya lingered at the doorway. You don't have to read all of it. I do, Alicia whispered. I need to know the shape of the weapon they're using. Her phone buzzed again. Denise this time. Discoveries filed. It'll be months before we get traction, but Marcus is right, you need another move, something faster. Alicia stared at the glow of her screen, at her own face frozen mid-sentence in 100 thumbnails. She felt the heat of humiliation, the cold of resolve. Her voice came quiet, iron beneath the calm. Then we'll give them a story they can't erase. The emails stopped coming first. 2 contracts, months of negotiations, vanished overnight with short, polite notes. We regret to inform you that we will not be moving forward at this time. The words were identical, down to the comma. By the 3rd, Alicia stopped opening them. Maya placed a stack of unopened envelopes on her desk. It's everyone? They're pulling out one by one. Alicia stared at them, pulse steady but low like a drumbeat before collapse. Price, Maya nodded, eyes tight. He's blacklisting you, whispering in the right ears. No one wants the risk. Silence filled the office, louder than shouting. That evening, Denise arrived, phone still in hand, muttering as she typed. This is coordinated. He's suffocating your firm. Starve the oxygen, force the collapse. Classic. Alicia sank into her chair, voice low. And the law? Denise looked up, her expression heavy. The law moves slow. He moves fast. That's the point. From the corner, Marcus folded his arms, which is why lawsuits won't work. He doesn't care about courts. He cares about control, Denise snapped. And you think a miracle buyout is easier? I think it's the only thing he doesn't expect, Marcus shot back. The air crackled with tension. Alicia closed her eyes, the weight pressing her ribs. Narration slid in, sharp as glass. Power doesn't always scream. Sometimes it strangles in silence. Contracts withheld, calls unanswered, doors that never open. The system doesn't need chains when it has paperwork. Marcus leaned forward, voice quieter now. Alicia, I've been digging. Sterling's bleeding. Stock is soft. Debt climbing. They're desperate for stability. Alicia's eyes snapped open. Prove it. I can, Marcus said. Numbers don't lie. They can hide, but they don't lie forever. Denise exhaled, pinching the bridge of her nose. Even if he's right, do you realize what you're saying? You're talking about raising capital in the hundreds of millions. Alicia's jaw tightened. And why not? They already decided I don't belong. Maybe the only way in is to buy the key. The next morning, Sterling's boardroom buzzed with low voices. Jonathan Price stood at the head, hands clasped behind his back. Her firm is finished, he said smoothly. Clients are gone. Reputation damaged. She'll fold before winter, a director asked, and the lawsuit? Jonathan smiled. Noise, nothing more. She'll learn her place soon enough. The room chuckled, complicit. Back at her office, Alicia sat with Marcus and Denise as spreadsheets glowed across her screen. Red lines, falling shares, balance sheets, leaking debt. The numbers were ugly. Denise tapped the screen. This bank is a giant, but it's hollow. They've been hiding cracks, Marcus grinned. Cracks mean leverage. Alicia's fingers hovered over the keys, heart pounding. She could see it now, the impossible plan taking shape in columns and decimals. The path wasn't clean, it wasn't safe, but it was real. Her voice was steady when she spoke. Then we find the leverage. If he wants silence, we'll make noise he can't drown. The words lingered, final like a move already made. Checkmate, whispered the silence. The conference room smelled of ink and nerves. Alicia sat at the head of the table, laptop open, Marcus pacing near the window, Denise scrolling through a stack of printouts. Numbers filled the screens, balance sheets, quarterly losses, debt obligations that looked like fractures in bone. Marcus tapped the glass. See this? They're closing branches in low-income neighborhoods. Calling it streamlining, it's survival. They're bleeding cash, Denise shook her head. Bleeding, yes. But buying into a failing bank isn't a rescue, it's suicide. Alicia leaned forward. Unless the failure is exactly the leverage we need. Price built his empire on image. He doesn't want anyone seeing these numbers. The silence that followed was heavy. Narration cut in, precise. Power hides in ledgers. Racism in boardrooms doesn't always come with slurs. It comes with closed doors, whispers in hallways, reports buried in drawers. Money speaks a language colder than words. Later that night, Alicia sat across from a group of potential investors. The room was sleek glass and steel. The men seated around the table polished like their cufflinks. She presented without hesitation. This isn't charity, she said. This is strategy. Sterling is vulnerable. With the right capital, control shifts. And with new leadership, this bank becomes something else entirely. The investors exchanged looks. One finally spoke. Ambitious. But you're asking us to risk hundreds of millions. Why you? Her jaw tightened, but her tone never wavered. Because I know their weakness. And because the one thing Sterling never prepared for was me. Laughter rippled. Polite. Skeptical. A hostile takeover by a consultant? Another voice. The market won't take you seriously. Not the market, Alicia shot back. You. If you stand behind me, the market follows. What matters is who owns the story when the smoke clears. Hours later in the car with Marcus, she let the mask slip. "They don't believe me," she whispered. Marcus grinned faintly. "They don't have to believe you. They just have to believe in profit. And if they don't, then we find the ones who do." Across the city, Jonathan Price reviewed reports with a frown. "Why are short sellers circling?" he asked sharply. His aide hesitated. "Word's spreading, sir. Rumors about liquidity." Jonathan slammed the folder shut. "Who's behind it?" The aide's silence was answer enough. Jonathan's eyes narrowed. "Grant." He spat the name like poison. Back in her apartment, Alicia stood by the window, city lights scattered below. Her reflection stared back at her. Tired eyes, clenched jaw, unyielding posture. She whispered to herself, steady as a vow. "You shut me out. Now I'll own the door." The hum of the city answered like a promise. The elevator rose in silence, its mirrored walls throwing Alicia's reflection back at her. She had dressed deliberately. Sharp navy suit, silver earrings, hair pulled into a sleek knot. Not a trace out of place. If Jonathan Price wanted to define her as an outsider, tonight she would look like inevitability. The boardroom doors swung open before she knocked. Jonathan was already there, alone, waiting. "Miss Grant?" he said, voice smooth as varnished oak. "Or should I say, Miss Fantasy?" She stepped inside. "You've heard?" "I've heard rumors. Whispers of grand plans from someone who doesn't understand the first thing about power." He smiled, thin and cruel. "It's cute, really." She set her folder on the table, calm, precise. "Cute is underestimating me." Narration slipped in, taut. "The glass ceiling is invisible until you slam into it. The iron chains are silent until they tighten. Racism isn't always rage. It's dismissal, the smirk that tells you the fight was lost before it began." Jonathan leaned back, folding his arms. "Do you know what banks are built on, Miss Grant? Confidence, image, and you—" His gaze swept her like a blade. "You are not an image anyone wants to see." Alicia met his eyes, steady. "Funny, I thought banks were built on numbers, and your numbers look bad." For a flicker of a second, his mask slipped. His jaw twitched. But then the smirk returned. "Numbers can be hidden. Narratives can be rewritten. But you can't be rewritten. You'll always be what you are, and no investor will bet on that." Alicia's throat burned, but her voice stayed level. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll bet on the fact that the man who denied me entry will soon be begging me for access." His laughter filled the room, booming against the oak panels. "You think you're dangerous?" "Your noise." "Nothing more. And noise always fades." She leaned forward, words like steel. "So do empires." The silence after crackled like electricity. Jonathan's eyes hardened. "You'll regret this. Every call you make, every investor you beg, they'll come to me. And I'll remind them what happens to people who don't know their place." Her pulse raced, but she didn't flinch. "Then I'll remind them what happens when places change owners." She gathered her folder, turned, and walked out, leaving his smirk behind her like smoke. Outside, Marcus was waiting by the elevator. "Well," she exhaled. "He's rattled," Marcus grinned. "Good. Means you're getting close." Denise joined them, expression grim. "Close isn't enough. You're playing chess with someone who's been moving pawns his whole life." Alicia pressed the elevator button, her voice low but unshaken. "Then it's time to checkmate." That night, narration returned. Every barrier is built to outlast you. Every chain is forged to remind you of weight. But weight can shift. Glass can shatter. What was built to contain can become the evidence of collapse. The boardroom was fuller than usual. Directors lined the polished table, pens tapping, whispers circling like restless birds. Alicia stood at the far end, folder clasped in both hands, the hum of tension vibrating in her chest. Jonathan Price entered late, silver hair immaculate, expression carved in stone. He scanned the room, then her, and smirked. "Shall we begin?" A director cleared his throat. "We've received an acquisition proposal." Jonathan's smile thinned. "From whom?" The director's gaze flicked to Alicia. "From Miss Grant." The silence that followed was heavy, almost physical. Chairs creaked. Someone coughed. Jonathan's laugh broke it, low and derisive. "This is absurd. A consultant waving papers does not an acquisition make." Alicia slid the folder across the table. "Not papers, proof. Backing from 3 firms, secured capital, and preliminary agreements. You're insolvent, Jonathan. And I'm your solution. Narration sharpened. Racism expects collapse. It feeds on failure. It never prepares for survival. Least of all for victory. Jonathan flipped through the folder, his jaw tightening as the numbers glared back. Even if this is real, he hissed, and they won't follow you. They don't follow women like you. One director spoke carefully. If her capital is genuine, our duty is to consider the offer. Duty? Jonathan snapped. Our duty is to preserve stability. Another director shifted. And she may provide it. Jonathan's fists curled. You think she belongs at this table? The words came sharp, unguarded, laced with venom. She doesn't belong anywhere near us. She is not. He stopped too late. The room froze. Eyes widened. A phone on the table glowed red. The call was still live, microphone unmuted, broadcasting his every syllable to waiting investors outside. A director whispered, "They heard you." Jonathan's face drained. Alicia's voice cut the silence, calm and clear. "This is exactly why I belong here, because you don't even bother to hide it anymore." Murmurs filled the room, louder this time. Directors leaned away from Jonathan, toward her. The balance shifted in real time, visible in posture and silence. Jonathan slammed the folder shut. "This is treason." "No," one director said. "This is transition." Narration pressed in. Poetic justice rarely comes with fanfare. It comes in slips of the tongue and microphones left open, in the arrogance of men who thought the world would never hold them accountable. By the meeting's end, the vote was cast. Alicia was majority shareholder, her name etched into the record. The bank once barred to her, now bore her authority. Jonathan stormed out, face pale with rage, his empire collapsing behind him like sand through glass. Alicia remained seated until the last whisper faded, hands steady on the table. She had won, but her chest was hollow. Victory carried a cost, the same marble floor, the same fluorescent lights, but everything felt different. Alicia's heels echoed across the sterling lobby, and the stairs this time weren't laced with dismissal. They were edged with calculation, curiosity, unease. Employees stood straighter as she passed. The receptionist from that first day kept his head down, suddenly fascinated by his keyboard. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, her chest was heavy. In her new office, Jonathan's old office, the city stretched wide through floor-to-ceiling glass. Papers were stacked in neat piles, contracts waiting for her signature. The leather chair felt too large, the air too still. Maya slipped inside. "It's official. Every outlet is running it. Black woman acquires Sterling Federal. They're calling you historic." Alicia didn't look up from the window. "They don't see the scars." Maya hesitated. "You did it. Isn't that enough?" Alicia turned, eyes sharp. "Enough for who? The clients who abandoned me? The father who told me to stay quiet? The part of me that had to burn down pieces of my own life to get here?" Silence. Maya lowered her gaze. That night, Alicia sat across from her father again. No fine restaurant this time. Just his modest kitchen, the same chipped mug he always used. He looked at her a long while before speaking. "You won." Her laugh was brittle. "Did I? You own the bank that tried to throw you out. And lost friends, family, years, parts of myself I'll never get back." His eyes softened, but his words stayed blunt. "That's the cost. Every crown weighs more than it looks." She stared into her mug. The silence between them wasn't hostile this time. It was acknowledgement. Shared weight across generations. Narration came spare and cold. Victory never erases the wound. Justice doesn't stitch scars. Racism leaves a debt that success cannot repay. But survival writes itself in permanence, even when the body remembers the cost. Later, alone in her office, Alicia watched the city lights flicker. The same floor that had rejected her now carried her nameplate. Yet the memory of that guard's hand on her elbow, Jonathan's smirk, the headlines calling her hostile, they lingered, sharp and unhealed. Her phone buzzed with congratulations she didn't answer. She closed her eyes, whispering into the quiet. I paid in full, and the glass walls around her reflected only the weight of what victory had taken. The lobby was no longer silent. It hummed with the energy of something new. Posters lined the walls. Sterling Federal, rebuilt for everyone. The marble still gleamed, but beneath it, something deeper had shifted. Alicia walked through slowly, heels clicking, watching employees move with an air of caution that was giving way, day by day, to something like pride. In the conference room, a group of interns waited nervously. Young faces, brown, black, Asian, white, eyes wide with hope, with fear, with expectation. Alicia placed her folder on the table and sat forward. I know why you're here. Some of you think this is just a job. Some of you think it's a chance to climb. But for all of you, it's more than that. The room hushed. She continued, voice steady but carrying the weight of scars. This place used to be a wall built to keep people like me out. You will not rebuild that wall. You will build doors, and you will hold them open even when it's hard, even when the world tells you to close them. An intern asked quietly, and what if the world pushes back? Alicia met her eyes. Then you push harder, because survival is only the first step. Change is the legacy. Narration sharpened, poetic justice isn't loud. It is slow, deliberate, written in policies, in paychecks, in opportunities handed where they were once withheld. It is not revenge. It is rewriting the rules until the old ones crumble into dust. Later, as the interns filed out, Maya lingered. They look at you like you're untouchable. Alicia smiled faintly. I'm not. That's the point. They need to see the cracks, the scars. That's how they'll know it can be done. That evening, she stood again by the glass wall of her office, city lights flickering across her reflection. This time the weight in her chest wasn't emptiness. It was gravity. Jonathan Price's downfall had already become a cautionary tale. Headlines that once called her hostile now called her trailblazer. But she knew the truth. Both labels were traps, attempts to shrink her into words. The scars remained. The cost remained. But the legacy had begun. She whispered into the glass, not for herself, but for the ones who would come after. Never again at the door. Always at the table. The city stretched below, vast and unyielding, but for the first time it reflected possibility.